Hello and welcome back to the Perky Pod. My name's Ben Perkins, and today we're looking at supporting others, which has been a massive part of my life through being supported and supporting others through youth work, friendships, church, and even my business in some cases. And I want to look at this through the lens of my professional development portfolio for my uni assignment that I'm doing, and thinking about what supporting others has actually taught me about who I am, the way I lead, and the areas I'm still keen to grow on. And this isn't me trying to say I've got everything together, because honestly I really don't, but it's more of an honest look at the way I've supported others, and how I might kind of try and do that and try and grow in that, and some of my strengths and weaknesses throughout that. So I'm going to be reflecting on the kind of person I am when I'm supporting someone else, what I've learnt from that, and the areas I want to grow, and how I can become someone that encourages and supports people better. And I'd also love this to be an opportunity for anyone listening to really be able to think about how they support others, how you guys support other people, draw alongside people, and maybe how you can use the gifts you've got to draw alongside people in the best ways. So let's get into it. So first kind of question we're going to be digging into is kind of who I am when I'm supporting someone else. I would love to say that I'm still me. I think some people can turn into someone quite different when they're supporting someone, but I really try and just be my true self, and really draw alongside them just as a friend, and really want to be able to show them just love and support in whatever that might be. And I really want kind of my core values to really come across as being really empathetic, draw alongside, and really, kind of having real, genuine conversations. So I really want to be, and I think I am someone that does just draw alongside them as a friend, rather than trying to kind of be someone different when I'm supporting someone, as I think being consistent in that, in kind of friendships and relationships like that, is really valuable. And I think over the last, few years, I've definitely grown in this. I think I've definitely improved in the way I kind of have drawn alongside other people, which I think is a definite key area I've grown in. I think kind of think 5 years back, I think I definitely wasn't as emotionally intelligent and as kind of understanding of how I can best support friends in various situations. So I think that's something that I've really grown in. I think I've got a lot of space to grow more, which is exciting. I think it's a continuous growth in how to support others and how to mentor or disciple and draw alongside friends and people. But I think it's so important to really be open to growing that as well, and to not think, oh, I'm finished, I'm doing this great, but actually realize it's an ongoing thing. Even kind of my parents or grandparents will still be growing in how they can best support their friends and family around them. And thinking about kind of a moment that when I'm supporting someone else has actually shaped me the most. I can't actually specifically think of, one moment, but I think a lot of the time when I've been drawing alongside people, the thing that has been most important of that has been the fact I've drawn alongside someone as a friend, rather than try to kind of, look down on them from a kind of hierarchy position. I think that's something that's been really valuable, is, drawing alongside and kind of having that genuine friendship rather than anything else. And I think there have been some times when I've kind of been having conversations and things, but I've not actually realised what that conversation has done to someone, and done, how that's affected them in a positive way for the most part, thankfully. And when I've kind of been, maybe nudging people in various ways, encouraging them to come along to things, I've kind of often kind of do things without really thinking that way, kind of encouraging people. But actually, I often don't understand the impact that can have, which I think is really encouraging. And I would say that's a really a gift that God is using through me. And a lot of that is not my works, but God's works. But I think it's, definitely opened my eyes to the fact that actually it's so key to just step out of your comfort zone, ask, challenge people on things if they're, struggling on something and trying to grow in something, or draw alongside them if that's the right situation. And I think it all often and always is, to be fair. And I think what I've learned is that every person is different as well. And it's just about drawing alongside people in the right ways. And really, being a friend rather than being someone that looks down. And that's something I've found has been valuable when other people have done that to me, when I've been treated as a genuine friend and had those genuine friendships, rather than someone kind of, sitting down with me and thinking, all right, we've got an issue, let's work on it, but more just chatting it over. And I think when it's a two-way relationship, when you're both helping each other on whatever, I think that's really valuable. There's a lot of science actually behind that I've learned within Alcohol's Anonymous, which is a group trying to kind of get free of alcohol addictions. And the last step of that is actually to help another alcoholic get free of their alcohol addiction. And that act of helping someone else means that you kind of help yourself get free from that. And I think there's a lot of science that backs up that within other situations, if you're drawing alongside someone, having it as a two-way thing, two-way relationship, rather than, one way you're kind of helping them, like a counsellor might help someone, but that's all they do. But when it's a friendship, I think having, how you help each other can be so much more beneficial because you both grow through that. And that's something I've really been learning and growing and trying to actually lean into more, is in, doing the kind of both, asking for help while also helping, as I think we've all got a lot to grow in and a lot to to dig into. And I think it's actually so important to be vulnerable and ask for that from others, even if they may not seem and feel like they're in a position to help. But actually, I think everyone is in their own capacity, and I think that's really valuable to actually ask that. And it really shows for that person that might be struggling, and actually they still have got a real value in helping you, which I think is super important. I heard something along those lines, the Alcohol Anonymous stuff, in a recent podcast, and I think it's really, really valuable, and so such a great thing to be reflecting on and thinking about kind of how you might be drawing alongside people and how you can kind of tactically, but still empathetically and lovingly, use that situation to become, have the best outcome of best kind of support for that individual or yourself as well. And thinking about where I might naturally add value to others or where I might unintentionally get in the way, I'd say some of the natural values I've got that really have helped is kind of being someone that can encourage and being there to listen to people. That's something I really want to grow in more, actually, is being a better listener, but also being kind of calm in kind of difficult situations. I've found there's definitely been times when there's lots going on, but I've actually been able to be quite calm and relaxed in those situations, which has meant I'm able to kind of draw alongside my friends or peers or whatever in a way that can really help support them. And I found that has been really valuable, and be able to kind of create a kind of calm, relaxed, safe space to talk about things, even if there's kind of a massive storm of chaos around, and some challenges and some weaknesses and areas I'd love to be able to grow in. I'd say kind of committing to trying to kind of support more people, or too many people, or kind of drawing alongside so many people. I find it hard to have the kind of emotional energy for everyone and be able to kind of constantly check in on everyone. I found has definitely been a struggle, and I've tried to kind of overcommit myself to that, and kind of taking on people's emotional things when I've got stuff going on as well. I think it's important as a thing to realise you shouldn't kind of take on someone's emotional weight if you're not in a position that you're pretty comfortable where you're at. And I've definitely found that has been something really something really important to reflect on, and important to be aware that you are in a position that you're comfortable with, that you're in a position you're ready to support someone, rather than being in a bit of a wobbly place to then also try and support someone, as I think it's a lot harder to be the rock if you are drawing alongside someone if you're also struggling. And that's something I think is a hard balance to understand where you need to be, but I think having kind of boundaries and understanding when you're ready to really draw alongside someone, and when you maybe need to take a bit of time for yourself, because I think you've got to focus on yourself first, make sure you're in a good position before really going out there to help others. And I do think that we're never going to be perfect, so we shouldn't be waiting until we feel completely ready, because I think the best time, there's never the perfect time in life in anything really, but especially kind of sporting and draw alongside people, I think. But I do think it's important to make sure you're in a position where you're comfortable to draw alongside someone, and you're feeling like you can readily do that, whether that's kind of having some of those difficult conversations with a friend or whatever. But I think in whatever situation, if there is a conversation that needs to be had, even if you're in a place you're struggling with, that could be beneficial for them. I do think it's important to do that, as long as it's not going to be a detriment to your own kind of mental health and your own stability. But it's a balance, and I think finding that sustainable balance is really important. But I think that's something only you as the individual, only I could work out for myself, and only anyone listening could work out for yourself as well. And it's super important, I would say. I've learned a lot about supporting others through leadership and things, and I found a lot of the times I've been able to support someone the best is actually when I'm really just drawing alongside them as a friend, rather than trying to kind of be this figure on top, like kind of almost in a school when you've got the teacher and the student. I think it's really important to draw alongside people as genuine friends, whether that's in the youth work I do, or at uni or in other situations. I think just being a friend and draw alongside is so valuable, rather than being an honest upper stool. So I think then you can have really honest, genuine conversations and really grow in a friendship. And I think having that friendship forming to kind of be in a place where you can support someone is so important, as you've already got that background support and background understanding of each other. And that's not in a kind of way to kind of have a tactical move to try and get to know someone just so you can support them. But I think building a genuine, loving, awesome friendship with someone, and then you can be in a better place to support them, I think is so important. And I think a friend of someone is, for the most part, going to be a much better person at supporting someone than someone that doesn't know them at all. And I think there's, going to be exceptions when there's counsellor therapy, who come from an outsider perspective and can bring a new light on things. I think there's a massive value for that. And if you're needing that, do dig into that. That's so important. But I do genuinely really think that friendships and those that have a good understanding of you are so valuable in drawing alongside. And I've definitely learned that there's, building trust and building kind of consistency with those friendships is so important. And really, growing in that and realizing that actually, there might be ups and downs. There might be kind of times when you're less close because you're not hanging out as much, but having that trust and constant understanding you can lean on each other when you need to, I think is so important. And that's definitely a lesson I've learned through leadership, but also through just general kind of friendships that I've had over the years. I also think being honest and vulnerable is super important. And actually, the more honest you can be in the right situations, it can be really valuable in both parties understanding how best to support each other. If you both know what you've been through, that can then help you kind of draw alongside each other to help support and going forward in the best ways. And also kind of being accountable to each other can also help you grow in whatever areas you might want to be growing. And I've definitely been finding accountability really helpful, whether that's from reading the Bible, spending time with God, or other things I might be struggling in life. Actually having a friend to keep me accountable for has been super important, and saying how can we best support each other and things. I think that's something that I found really valuable. I've also found my faith has been really important in the way it's shaped the way I support other people, and my faith can really motivate me to draw alongside people in the way that Jesus did. As a kind of genuine friend, as someone that doesn't kind of look down on people, but someone that draws alongside and shows them genuine love, even if they're not necessarily someone I would, hang out with, like the fact Jesus hang out with tax collectors. I think it's really important to actually not kind of put yourself on a stool thinking, I shouldn't hang out with them because they're, not like I am, or they're, a bit worse than me in whatever situation. That's not at all what Jesus would have done. And I've really tried to stay true to that. And I know I don't always, and that's something I want to grow in. But I think my faith has definitely encouraged me to support others in the right ways, and in a way that I can really help them and really kind of deepen a friendship with them. And I think that's what I've definitely learned through lots of biblical themes over my life and from other Christians, that's really helped open my heart to how I can really best support people. And I've definitely had a lot of kind of Christian leaders in my life that have drawn alongside me, that have then helped me understand, now I'm drawing alongside other people, how I can best do it. And maybe some of the strengths and weaknesses that I've seen in other leaders, how I can best adapt those and think about what was good, what was less good, and how I can kind of try to become the best best leader that can best support people. And I think, there's no way I'm going to be the best, but it's just growing in that and improving on where I have been in the past. And I think that's what's important, in realizing you're never going to be perfect at these things, draw alongside people, but actually just doing it with a heart heart kind of angled towards God, and God at the center of it, I think is so important. As God can guide in those situations, and being prayerful as well, I think is really important. And asking God for help, because often it's hard to know what to say in some situations, but actually just asking God and inviting God into those situations, I think is so valuable. And I've definitely needed God's wisdom at times when I've been chatting with people or whatever, and I think that's where my faith has really helped shape that. And whether that's talking to a Christian or non-Christian, I still think having my relationship with God and having my faith has really helped me understand best how I can draw alongside people. And it definitely kind of isn't separate. My faith isn't separate to the way I draw alongside people or lead people. It's so integrated, and so kind of such a key part of what I do with my faith and the way I draw alongside kind of my friends and people. But I think there's also important to think about kind of boundaries I might need to kind of protect for myself, and I think anyone listening, thinking about, like, as I kind of touched on earlier, that not extending yourself so far, I think is really important to think about how you can support people sustainably. And I think there are definite patterns of burnout that some people can deal with, or draw, kind of taking on someone's emotional weight and they're not ready. And then that being really struggle, suddenly realizing you've got all the issues you might be going through, or struggles, or just ups and downs in life, as well as having someone else's emotional weight on you. I think it's really important to have kind of systems in place and things in place to understand, like, right, what can I take on, and who can I really draw alongside someone in the right way, or am I actually going to be best to tell this friend or tell this person, actually I think it might be better to have some of these conversations with someone else, because I think it's so important to not have have a friendship or relationship when you are supporting someone be kind of diminished by the fact you're trying to really help them through something that actually you don't have the capacity for, because actually it's going to bring you down. Obviously still love that friend if they're struggling with something, and do draw alongside them in ways you can, but sometimes there are some conversations that might be too tough, that might be not quite the right situation for where you're at if you're not ready for that. And I think having habits and systems in place to say, right, I'm not going to be the best at supporting you at this time, and accepting that, I think, can be really important. But it's a hard balance, and I think understanding that there's a hard balance, and it's never going to be easy exactly to know when you should draw alongside someone or not. But I do think, on the whole, if you're feeling you're in a position to, great, do it. But if you're thinking you're wobbly or not in a great position to, I think that's when I've learned I maybe should take a step back, and when I need to kind of work on myself. That's kind of what I've learned. I've seen in other people, but I think it's definitely something that is so situational. It's hard to kind of have a cutthroat rule for that. And lastly, thinking about kind of ways I want to grow and how I support someone, I really want to be someone that can be drawing alongside people, and people feel really open to talking with me. And I think a lot of that is through kind of building friendships and relationships with people. I think that's super, super important. And also learning to listen better. I think I've definitely had times when I've been trying to listen, that I may have butted in, trying to give wisdom, but actually, in reality, the thing they needed was for me to listen, and the thing they needed for me to was understand the whole situation rather than jumping to conclusions. So I think listening better and really growing in that is something that I need to really work on, and being really intentional of the questions I might be asking and the way I might be leading a conversation, if that is the situation. I think also being really reliable at keeping people accountable is something I want to grow in, and I know I've said to people, I'm going to keep you accountable, I'm going to check in on these things, but I failed on that. And I know that actually could then have a negative impact on those people's lives, because I was trying to help them grow in something, and then I've not checked in on them as I said I would, which has then maybe meant it's harder for them to keep up on that thing. I know I've definitely had that when I've had people say, I'm going to keep you accountable for this. I'm kind of waiting for their message, and then I don't do it, and then they don't message, and then I think, it doesn't matter. They don't care about that. I'm going to stop doing this. That's kind of in the Bible reading and other things I found. And I think actually I want to be someone, if I say I'm going to keep someone accountable, I want to keep myself accountable to that. I want to keep consistent with that, as I think that's so, so important in kind of be able to draw alongside people, and being trustworthy as well, saying you're going to do something and actually committing to that, rather than saying you're going to do something and actually kind of being a bit flaky on it. I think it's really important to be committed if you say you're going to be committed, and if not, be honest, be vulnerable, say, I'm sorry, I don't think I can do that. I think it'd be good to draw alongside someone else that could help. And also, like, peer mentorship as well is super important. Encouraging, I'm thinking of some of my youth work, encouraging some of the younger youth to draw alongside each other and help grow each other, as kind of leaders aren't always going to be there, but actually having kind of friends that can draw alongside you in that way has been really valuable for me. And I think I'd love that gift of peer mentorship to be something that, younger lads and other younger people I'm leading to also be able to grow in. And thinking about kind of one practical action I really want to take this month is being kind of consistent with checking in on people, and being consistent in keeping people accountable. I think that's the one thing, and I know I've definitely been, this month I've been less good at that. I've been pretty all over the place, but I think actually just spending a few minutes out of my week to think, right, who am I drawing alongside? Who do I need to check in on? How are they doing? How can I help keep these people accountable in the best ways? And, within the capacity I've got as well. I think it's an important balance. But yeah, I think that wraps up this episode on, kind of thinking about supporting others and how I might be supporting others. And I hope this could be kind of an episode where anyone that might be listening can really think about how maybe you support others, and how you could best use the skills you've got to help draw alongside people. And the last thing I want to say is just draw alongside people as a friend, show them love. And I think that's the most important thing. And if you're a Christian, invite God into that. I think it's so, so important. But thank you so much for listening. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.